everyone! Today's video was requested by Marsha, who asked, how about a printable that you write down what's in your freezer, fridge, and pantry so you can see it when you are making your grocery list? I either don't buy things at the store because I swear I have it and come home and I don't, or I buy a product like ketchup and come home to 3 bottles. I never remember what's in the freezer either. I am giving away 3 free printables. There is a version for your freezer, a version for your fridge, and for your pantry. You can print out multiples of each sheet based upon how many you need. My idea was to use these inventory sheets for more of like your staple ingredients. Things that you commonly buy, you want to have on hand at all times. In order to use this planner insert to complete an inventory of what you currently have in your freezer, you would need to start by filling out the category. For this example, I'm going to use meat and fish as my category. I want to point out that I am using a friction erasable pen because I don't want to have to rewrite this over and over again. As I purchase more of these items, I'm simply going to erase and restart. And then move on to the first 4 columns on the sheet. The first column is the item. In my example, I have chicken breasts, chicken thighs, ground beef, Korean beef, meatballs, pork shoulder, and salmon. The second column is the expiration date of that food so that you can make sure to use it up before it expires. The third column says starting quantity. This is the amount that you currently have in your freezer at the time of your inventory. There are different ways that you can choose to fill this section out, but for me, I am writing down the number of portions remaining in the freezer to be thawed. My husband and I do batch cooking, meaning multiple days of dinners are prepared ahead of time in order to reduce the amount of time that we spend cooking each week. And because of that, we freeze food into bags in the portion size that we will need per batch cooking session. For ground beef, we freeze 6 bags with 1 pound of ground beef in each of them so that when it's time to cook, we just need to thaw 1 bag. We don't do this for something like frozen chicken breasts though, because they already come in a bag. And I think it's helpful to kind of think of that entire bag as a certain number of portions. For example, we typically thaw 3 pounds of chicken breast at a time, which is enough for 6 different meals. So if we put 1 6-pound bag of frozen chicken breast in the freezer, I'm referring to that as 2 3-pound portions under quantity. Underneath the amount is a place to write the date, which would be the date that you had that starting quantity. It's the date that you completed your inventory. The updated quantity column is to indicate the number of portions you have in your freezer. Once that portion gets used up, then I write a check mark next to it. Maybe you want to add your check marks in real time, meaning when you pull the item out of the freezer to thaw, then you draw a check mark. Another idea is to schedule in a specific day in your planner to update your inventory sheet all at the same time. Once all of the portions in your updated quantity column have been used up, you can draw a checkbox in the Added to List column to indicate that this item now needs to be added to the grocery list, if it is something that you do have a plan to cook again, or if it's an item that is considered a staple ingredient, something that you always want to have on hand. The checkbox can also be added in the purchase column that can then be checked off later on once you've actually purchased the item. Maybe for your meal plan, you need to have at least 4 pounds of ground beef. So then under the checkbox for grocery list, you would add 4 pounds. Or maybe you like to have a certain amount of that meat on hand. So for example, chicken breast, we'll say we like to have 6 pounds of chicken breast on hand. So I wrote 6 pounds under the grocery list. And then when I'm adding that to my actual shopping list, I will indicate that amount. Especially when it comes to things like what's in your freezer, it is helpful. If you have a deep freezer, it's helpful to know when that's going to expire so you can plan ahead to use these up before they expire so you're not wasting money. So now let's say that I'm making my grocery list. So then I just look on this column, and this is what I need to buy based upon my meal plan. So I need to add 6 pounds of chicken breast, 4 pounds of ground beef. So then I can just check this column off. And then let's say that I go to the store and I purchase these items. So then now that these items have been purchased, I can reset that row. So the parts that are going to change that need to be erased are the expiration date, the starting quantity, at least the date. In this case, it's going to be the same amount. The check marks, and the check boxes. And then I can just fill in my new information based on what I purchased at the store. So in this case, the expiration date, this quantity stays the same and I don't fill in this column. So then this way you can keep reusing the same sheet over and over again. Another idea is to use those laminate stickers that I talked about in a previous video, and then use a wet erase marker to fill in these sections. I'll link that video down below so you can learn more about how those laminate stickers work. But for those, you don't have to laminate the entire page. You just put it on the part of the page that is relevant to you. Now I want to go over how the fridge and pantry inventories work. I am going to use the category of spices. So I write the item down, the expiration date, and then for quantity, I'm just going to do 1 jar just to keep it simple. Let's say that the jar of bay leaves is getting low. So you want to add it to the grocery list. And then underneath, you write the amount that you want to buy. If you run out of that spice, you could even cross it out once you run out. Some items in our pantry don't always have expiration dates written on them. So I'm just going to put, for like black pepper, sea salt, I'm just going to put NA because ours didn't come with an expiration date. I decided to add in seasonings in with the spices because we keep them together in the pantry. We checked our pantry and we saw that we're getting low on lemon seasoning. So I'm going to add that to the grocery list. So because these are added to the grocery list, I check them off here.
Hey, I heard you want to leave this place where we grew up. This old town, just put it all behind. Remember you and I would always find somewhere to hide.
For the fridge inventory, my category is going to be produce, but even though it says fridge, I'm going to just include room temperature produce as well, just to try to keep things as simple as possible. Once again, I'm filling in the item, the expiration date, and this of course is going to be based on either your experience with purchasing produce from a particular store, how long it lasts, or maybe even looking up online how long people recommend keeping that produce. I'm gonna write comma RT if it's something that's not actually kept in the fridge, like avocados. These expiration dates are really rough estimations. It's just to give you an idea of when it needs to be purchased again. If it's the day that you're collecting your inventory and you are out of an item, then for expiration date you would just put NA. And for quantity, you would put 0. And then you would obviously want to add in your boxes to indicate that it needs to be added to the grocery list. But hopefully using some like inventory system would prevent you from getting down to 0 quantity of something if it is a staple item that you would always want to have on hand. But maybe during your first inventory, you'll have certain cases where you are out of something. It might be a good idea to schedule your inventory day on the same day as your shopping day so that you come back from the grocery store and you're putting things away and you know exactly how much you have. So maybe you have like a day scheduled in your planner where you kind of check in on your inventory and you see what needs to be added, what's getting low. So for example, maybe the asparagus is getting low, so then it would need to be added to the grocery list. We can see here that the bell peppers, there's only 1, so that would also need to be added. So whether you decide that you want to update this as you are cooking, as you're using up these items, or if you want to schedule a separate day where you maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks or so, check in on your inventory, or whenever you are planning out your grocery list, maybe that's when you check your inventory. If you're someone who likes to bring your planner to the grocery store, or maybe even like a clipboard or just like a happy notes notebook, you could, instead of making a separate shopping list, you could use this as your shopping list, and then when you are at the store, check off purchased. And then that way that minimizes the amount of writing you're doing because you don't have to make a separate shopping list. I hope that you enjoy these free printables. If you want to see more videos on using a planner to meal plan, check out this video next, and I'll see you next Saturday. Bye!